A very big thank you to everyone who's joined today and who's continuing to join. It's genuinely so wonderful to host you today and to be able to tell you a little bit about egg donation. It's such a special thing to do in so many ways, and hopefully you'll leave today knowing a little bit more about that. So just a little bit of technical troubleshooting. Thank you so much to everyone who sent questions in advance. We will get through everything that we've been sent. You're also welcome to ask questions. If you hover over the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A and also a chat function. So you can also ask questions there. We'll do our very best to get through everything. Our objective today is to tell you a little bit about egg donation and to also have you hear from some women who've been through it themselves. So we're joined by Liz and Leanne, who are wonderful, wonderful women who've actually donated through Altrui before. And we're also joined by Alison and Jane, who both work at Altrui and have just such a wealth of information on egg donation, both from the donor side, but also from the recipient side. So they don't just see the donor, but they know who it's going to help. And then there's myself, I'm Julia, and I handle the communications, and I'll be handling the questions as well. If there's anything that we don't get through, my email is in the email that will follow the webinar, so feel free to get in touch anytime and I'll direct you to the right people. So without further ado, I think I'm going to start with Alison, who is the founder of Altrui. She founded Altrui about a decade ago. And Alison, you've seen so many people on both sides, the incredibly generous women who've come forward to donate, as well as those who've had some pretty immense heartache trying to conceive. And I think it would be helpful if you could say a little bit about that and what it is that egg donation goes to help.
Okay, so thanks, Julia. Yeah, I mean, saying it's a heartache is really doesn't quite, it's sort of, it's a heartache, but it's a huge distress for people who have been trying to have a baby and can't. And it was really that, and seeing people, I was working in a big NHS unit in fertility at the time, and seeing people coming through who've been given a diagnosis of a young women, you know, probably your age, sort of, some, very few of them, but some of them were unable to produce any eggs. We have people who were born without ovaries, people who've been through chemotherapy, people who've been through numerous cycles of IVF, and people who had perhaps got children who had genetic issues. And each and every person that I got to see in my time there were just in such a bad place, and they really, the only way for them to get out of that and to feel that there was something in the future was to have the help of somebody to start a family. And that's where I started thinking at the time, because I'd seen somebody who had really been through a really tough time, and I thought, actually, you know what? There must be people out there. There must be people who, like you, have been thinking about it, but a bit worried about it, don't know much about it. And if we could only ask you, we could only just say, look, there are so many people who are in trouble. You know, can you help? There must be people out there. And blow me down, here you all are. And it's just incredible, because that help, I don't think, and I'm sure you'll hear from Liz and from Leanne, and donors who've been through us have said, I had no idea just until after I'd done it, and I'd heard indirectly from the couple I helped, or the people I helped, just what a difference it makes. And really, you know, I take my hat off to you guys, because it's huge respect and it's an amazing thing to do. And most people going through this just find it just an incredible experience, and that's what we want to make it for you going through this process. So Maybe it would be helpful for you at this stage to sort of know really how we work here at Altrui, because you know, it's such an ask of you, and we know that. But we start off gently. Nobody is ever pressured to do this. There's no obligation. You've got to know what's involved, and that's really part of this webinar tonight, because it does take commitment. It does ask you to do things which maybe some of them are a little bit out of your comfort zone, but maybe not, because I think a number of you have probably had children anyway, and actually, you know what, this is probably a doddle compared to that. But we start you off by, you know, if you express some interest, whether it's through Facebook or whether it's through calling or texting or through the website, we will start off with very low key, which will be to give you some outline information. This is not to completely blow you away, but it's just really to just give you a sketch of what is, you know, what to expect and some of the things that you need to have a think about. If you then decide you want to sort of look into a bit more, then you register with us, and we will arrange a call with one of the team to just talk through a little bit about whether or not it's possible for you to be a donor. That's quite a big one, because you are probably really healthy, really well, but there are just so many situations where, of all the will in the world, it's just not possible to take people through, and we do need to just sort of have that chat with you. But you know what, we're a friendly team. We're there. We really, you know, take what information you give us as really valuable, and we really respect these discussions we have with you. If you think that this is something that you'd like to, you can do, then we ask a bit more information from you, and I think that you might find that's the information which you probably find of being asked of you the whole time, but we prepare you for that, and we ask you for a lot so that you don't have to keep doing it time and time again. Once we get a bit more information from you, and that includes a photo of you, which helps me to match you or us to match you, and photos of you as a child and a little bit about you as a person, we then have another call if you're really still very, very serious about it, and we take you through everything from start to finish, warts and all, so that you know exactly what is going to be asked of you. There is never any pressure to continue. It really is about you going at your pace. We just walk the journey with you. And then if you're still up for this and you know you're still keen, then it's really exciting. We can look for somebody for you to help, and it'll be someone probably from those groups. We also help single ladies, we also help gay couples, lesbian couples. We don't have any judgments about this, but we listen to what you want and the sort of people you might like to help, because some people might prefer to help a young couple without children, other people might prefer to help a gay couple. We will listen to that, and then we match you with a recipient. That's a person who needs the help of you. They're called recipients, and you're a donor. And then when you're ready, and only then will we give you a little bit of information about who you're going to help. And I think that's actually quite important too at this stage, because it's, as I said, and I keep repeating it, it's quite an ask of you just to do something so incredibly kind for somebody else. We want you to feel good about this. So we will actually tell you why we've matched you, why somebody needs your help, how long they've been trying for a baby. And you will get to a sense that there is somebody there that you're helping, and I think that you would like, and that's a really big thing for us, somebody we think you would like and connect with. And if you're okay about going ahead and they're okay, then we take you into the next stage, which is to start you on the process. And I think I've whittled away quite a lot, and I think probably it's down to, amazingly, Liz and Leanne to sort of maybe take you through what happens then.
I think it's wonderful, you know, for people who are considering this to understand that as you said, it's a process. There's a certain learning about egg donation, but it's so important to understand who it helps. So thank you so much. And I think we will return to the process, but I'd love to start from with hearing from Leanne and hearing just how you came to find out about egg donation. And I think there's a bit of a delay, so sorry about that.
So for me, hear me okay?
Yeah.
So my sort of journey on egg donation was driving to work one day actually, and heard an advert on the radio. Didn't even know it existed, to be honest, but it caught my ear, caught my attention, made me stop in my thoughts and listen to it a little bit more in depth, and made me think a lot more about it, which made me then inquire a bit more and look into it a bit further, and that's when I discovered Altrui.
I'm going to ask the same question to Liz. How did you find out about egg donation, and what was it that struck you about it?
Well, again, it was just like Leanne. I was at work and I read on, and I kept hearing Altrui's advert, and I hadn't heard much about egg donation either, and I kept hearing it every day, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to Google it. So I Googled it, learned a lot more about it because I didn't know much about egg donation either, and was so intrigued. So I just filled a form in, and kept started the ball rolling, and not long after that I got a call, and so again it was advertising on the radio, and I just kept hearing it, and I just thought that sounds amazing. So
and the rest is history.
Exactly that.
Leanne, how did you find going through the process of egg donation? Did you find it easy? Were you scared of different aspects of it? How was actually going through with Altrui?
I wouldn't say I was scared, no. More element of excitement, I think. Probably a little bit of the unknown, but at the thought of being able to help somebody have a family of their own made it quite exciting. The journey with Altrui was just absolutely brilliant. From the moment I made contact, they were really clear, concise, thorough, honest. No question was daft. Believe me, I asked lots of questions. But they made the process really simple, and no, I wasn't fearful of any of it really. As I say, more of an excitement feeling than a fear.
And same question to you, Liz. How did you find the process of going through? So you learned about it at work. You did some research, and then how was the first contact with Altrui all the way through to when you actually donated?
Again, I felt very excited. I was a bit nervous because it's quite a big step. Altrui was so thorough. They were so understanding. Nothing was ever a chore. It was always, you were given so much information, so much support. It was they just made it super easy. So from the first phone call I had with them, I got emails, and it was really exciting that you knew that you were going to be, matched to a couple, and it wasn't rushed. It was all very thorough. They gave you plenty of time to think about it. It's not just something that they expect you to think of overnight. You're given plenty of time to really digest it, which I think is really important, because it is a big step. It is it's a lovely thing to do, but it is a big step. So they were just brilliant. They're just, they really were so caring, and nothing was ever too much trouble. Whatever question you had, a bit like what Leanne said, it's so true. It really was, amazing. I loved every minute. I really did.
And now thinking a little bit after the donation, this one will go to Leanne first. When you think about your donation, about the gift that you've given someone, how do you feel both about the recipient as well as the child?
So for me, the child's more curiosity. I think there are times you do think about them, but mainly as I say, curiosity, perhaps of what do they look like, you know, are they happy, are they healthy? For me, I'm more thoughtful of the recipient, to be honest, wondering how, you know, how it's made them feel as a unit to become a family, the processes maybe that they've gone through leading up to needing and accepting to need an egg donor, and I guess the gratefulness that they feel, which, you know, we all know that they do. It's a really big thing for them as well as us as donors, but it's a great feeling, and for them it's they're probably who I think about more, actually, the recipient.
Can I ask a question,
Yeah, go ahead.
Leanne? Would that be okay? Did it make a difference being matched carefully and sort of knowing a bit about who you're helping, or would you have just been happy just to have donated eggs and not known anything?
No, definitely for me it was a massive thing, being matched carefully. You know, although it's anonymous, the matching and the descriptions and things that Altrui gave me, and it made me feel like I knew them even though I didn't. Kind of makes you feel like that family unit. No, I wouldn't like the thought of not knowing anything or anyone. I liked that personal touch. It felt not just as a process, but it felt a lot more warming and you know, and a lot more comforting and reassuring. I think that these people are grateful, and you as Altrui staff know these people, you've spoken with them, and you know, it's a big trust issue with yourselves as well, which I felt from day one. Even hearing you say, oh, you know, Leanne, they're lovely people, they're so grateful, you have no idea what impact you're making to them. That gave me a sense of reward doing what I did and why I was doing it.
And I guess too, sorry Julia, I'm just fascinated just to have this chance. Did you was it also really important to know what happened as a result of your donation? Was that quite key? Because I know some places don't tell donors what happens. They're not I mean, you can go to the HFEA and find this information out, but I'm wondering if it would have made a difference if you didn't know what had happened.
I mean, for me, that was a massive part of the donation process. As soon as the egg collection had taken place, the next thing I was impatiently waiting for was to find out whether her test was positive and, you know, whether it had worked for her. And I think everybody as donors would admit really that that's a huge part of the process, to know that it's worked. It makes it worthwhile. It makes it, you know, it feels great to know that it's worked, and that's putting us through, like Liz has said, it is a process we go through. It's not an overnight decision, and the whole point of doing it is to try and assist and help somebody as best we can, to have a family of their own. So to find out that it's worked and that's been achieved is a massive result and a massive achievement, and it gives that sense of overwhelming feeling of, I guess, you know, a reward, and it's a lovely feeling. It achieves what we're out to do.
Just as a thing, I remember, funny enough, it's a silly question, because I remember walking back to work after lunch and you screaming down the phone that it's worked, it's worked, it's worked. So yeah, it's a silly question. I remember that now.
And I think,
you know, I know.
Sorry, go ahead, Leanne.
I know that we, you know, we're set out to help ladies, and there is always that risk factor. It may not work for them for whatever reason, but it's that's why we're doing it, to you know, to help those ladies, or, you know, couples, families, single ladies. It's to help them, and to know that it's worked just gives that sense of it's an overwhelming feeling. It really is hard to describe it.
And that's something that I think makes Altrui really, really special. If anyone follows us on social media, you'll see that we post lots every time that there's a pregnancy from one of our donors. We make sure we keep things anonymous, but we think it's so important to celebrate that, and the donors find out, you know, the sex of the baby, and I think that's a big thing. Would you agree, Liz?
Oh God, absolutely, yeah. It's amazing, you know, when you're told, you know, as Leanne said, when I did the retrieval, a week later I got a phone call, and you know, from a very excited Alison saying that, you know, that the lady was pregnant, I was just over the moon. You know, I know nothing, I knew hardly a thing about the couple, yet it was like, you know, a sister or something. I was so excited and happy that it worked, because following on from what Leanne said, it's you know, not always, you know, it's what, 60% chance, is that correct? I don't know if I'm right, 67%.
It's actually gone up. It's really
Oh,
successful because you donate to just one recipient couple, and all those eggs in that cycle go to the recipient. We're now at sort of nearly 80% pregnancy rate. So any help is really worth doing. You know, it's fantastic.
That's I'm gonna say that's all truey, because everyone, maybe some of the people in here don't know the difference between the one-to-one matching that we talk about and an egg bank, for example. So maybe Alison, could you touch on that?
Yeah, sure. I think we're pretty unique in as much as we specialize in finding somebody like you for a couple, and you donate to that couple alone in that cycle, which means that you're able to donate the group of eggs that you're producing in that month. So we're not robbing you of eggs for the future. Those eggs are going to be developing, and you're going to lose them. So that is the group you donate. So when other people, there are other clinics, and because there's such a shortage of donors, what they do is that they split that group of eggs you donate and give it to 2 or 3 other recipients, which I mean, me personally, I think it doesn't give them the best chance of a pregnancy, and neither does it give you that sort of sense that you're helping one couple. And for us at Altrui, it's really about you helping in such a way that those people can have a family. You know, if they're able to, there are enough eggs to be able to freeze what we call embryos, blastocysts, for the future, so they can have a family. So for us, it's a very different thing. So there's egg sharing, where somebody needs help themselves, and in payment for really, well, in exchange for the treatment being paid for them, they donate a proportion of those eggs. And again, it doesn't give that recipient couple the best chance. So we're just different. And the way that I started our tree was to give people the absolute best chance. So you can really blow everybody away by just one donation, which helps a family, really.
And it also gives them the chance for a sibling that has
exactly,
a genetically related sibling, which is really exciting. Just going back to the recipient and the gift of donation, Liz, you said that you were really excited when you heard the news of the pregnancy. How do you feel when you think about the recipient now and the child?
Again, it is curiosity. I do think of them every now and then. I wouldn't say every day, but you do wonder, because it was, you know, matched so personally. I have a kind of picture in my mind what the recipient looks like. You know, and also when the child was born, I was told, you know, the weight and what the sex was, and it was so exciting. And I sent a little card, but you don't feel, for me, I didn't feel like emotionally attached. I just felt like, oh, I'm just so glad it's worked and they've had a healthy baby. But yeah, every now and then I think about them, and I just hope they're really happy. And yeah, I'm just thrilled it worked, and you know, they got their family, which is what it's all about. It's definitely, you know, you do feel a sense of achievement, and it is an amazing feeling that will never leave me. And I've still actually got a card from them before it actually worked, and I'll cherish that, you know, forever. It's lovely.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think you've started talking about how you feel about the child, and I think that's something that a lot of potential donors think about. So the relationship. Some people ask, okay, well, it's like, is it like I'm giving a child away? Liz or Leanne, what would you say to that? Maybe.
Well, for me, it's certainly not my child. I just feel, you know, that I guess fertility is taken for granted in this world, and I perhaps never realised just how much I took it for granted when I had my own family. So no, I don't feel that at all. I think it's very different when, you know, the lady who has received the egg is growing that baby's kicking and moving and feeding from her inside her, and she's giving birth to him or her. So it's, you know, I don't feel like it's my child at all. I just feel like I've assisted them along the way. But I think, again, that's when you know that it's right for you. If you feel that you are attached to that child in some sort of emotional and physical way, then maybe it's not the right decision. But for me, I'm more attached to the recipient, knowing that I've bought them that family unit that they've been so desperately wanting.
Liz, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It doesn't feel like you're, you know, giving a child away at all. You've helped them, but, you know, the same. They're showing the pregnancy together, you know, the birth, everything. So for me, okay, yeah, I've helped with the eggs, but it's still, the baby's growing inside her. You know, the features are the same. I physically didn't feel any, you know, emotional attachment at all. So no, I never got that for a second, and I never worried about that even for the process. You know,
Great.
It's something that you're helping to do, but it's their baby, and that's it.
So this has, I think, set us right into the FAQs, and we are going to be speaking about some myths about egg donation, and basically the questions that we get the most often. I saw something just come in for both Leanne and Liz, asking if you have children yourselves. So maybe can we start with Liz?
Yeah. So yeah, I donated about 7 years ago, and I've now got a son who is 4. He's 5 in December, and yeah, he's amazing.
And Leanne?
So I've got 2 children. I've got a daughter who's 16 and a son who's 11.
Wonderful. And I think this poses the question that we probably get the most, and I'm going to direct this to Jane. Does donating eggs impact future fertility?
No, not necessarily. I think, you know, that's probably one of those myths that's out there as well. And I think what we've got to remember is these are you know, every month as women, we're producing eggs anyway. All we're doing with a cycle where we take a donor through is that we're trying to encourage those eggs to sort of be released, if you like. Whereas in a normal monthly cycle, you'd only get one of those eggs being released. So it doesn't have any impact on the natural fertility of that individual, generally speaking. Every donor is assessed before they're taken through for treatment, and if we felt that there were any concerns, we do various blood tests just to check suitability, and if we felt that there were any concerns about the individual's fertility, then obviously we would probably halt the process there and have that discussion.
Thanks so much, Jane. I see another question. Hello, would you consider donating for a second time? So maybe I will pose this to Leanne.
So I'm too old to donate now, unfortunately, but I have donated more than once already. So I'm quite happy with all my donation cycles that I managed to do. If I was old enough to do it, I would most certainly go again.
Alison, this one's for you. Do Altrui vet the future patients, see where the child will live, and make sure that the parents are financially stable?
Okay, we don't vet the recipients, no. We have a long call with them, so we get to know them, and and I've been doing this for sort of 30 years, I hate to even say it, but 30 years, and we get to know them in these conversations as we would you. But the clinics where they come from have a duty of care to you, and they have a responsibility to consider the welfare of a future child. So those clinics will go back to those recipients' GPs, and if there's any cause for concern, they will be asked to go to a panel of ethics committees. There is also counselling, which you guys will have as well, which is just to exactly the same question, really, you know, about you, but these recipients have to have counselling, so they have to see a counsellor, and this is the job of the counsellor. So I am a fully qualified and experienced counsellor in my own right, but I think that gives me that sort of second ear, really. And we have said no to some couples, or people, we just feel it's just not right. And the key for me, and Jane, I think, because she's jointly running Altrui, is to ensure that it is, we treat you with respect, and that is part of it, is actually making sure that your help is right, it's genuine, it's like, you know, that child is going to be loved, because it is really an important part. You know, there is that welfare of the child that I'm always got my ear out for. So formally, no, not with us, but informally, definitely. And in clinic, there is certain gateways that these recipients have to go through to ensure that they can cope with the child, and that welfare of the child is considered. That is the law.
Great, thanks so much, Alison. I'd add in as well that maybe for those who are new to fertility and egg donation, the types of people that tend to come to egg donation have really tried and desperately want a child, and they've usually explored other routes, and for one reason or another it's not an option for them. So we have some excellent webinars that we've had with recipients, which I'd be happy to share with interested donors if you're interested to see on the other side. But they tend to be incredibly grateful people who have also had to come to a journey that they're not going to have a child in the way that they previously had maybe grown up expecting, and they are so grateful for the help as well. So just going back to the FAQs, I think the other big one that we have, and I'm going to pose this to Liz, is, does it hurt?
No, not at all. I was a bit apprehensive about injections. I'm not going to lie. I had to get my partner to do the first few because I was like a chicken. But once you get into the swing of it, it was fine. And the retrieval itself, you know, completely painless. And I'm being completely honest, it really was really straightforward, actually. You know, I think the lead up to it was more worrying than the actual procedure, but you know, the whole few months I did it, it's fine. You know, the blood test, everything, it was, yeah, just part of their life after all of it. It was absolutely fine.
The next one for Leanne, did you talk about it with friends and family? And you know, did you have any concerns? Did you what was the process of telling them like?
I've always discussed it with friends and family. I've never kept it from anybody. I think a lot of it is because I'm so proud of what I've done. Yes, I think at the beginning there was a few apprehensions, but I think a lot of it was because they weren't really aware of the full information about it. And I think once that was explained and understood, it made things a lot more clear for people. You know, I've even been open with my children about it. They know exactly what I've done and why and what it's resulted, and even they think it's fantastic. So I've had a huge amount of support through numerous of my donations that I've done.
That's really lovely. It's I mean, egg donation really feels like one that's really not that discussed. Everyone knows about the need for donor sperm, for donor blood. But I feel like there's also a bit of awareness that goes on around it. I'm not sure if you found the same experience, Liz. How did your friends and family react?
I didn't actually tell loads of people when I first did it, not because, you know, I was ashamed or anything like that, just because it was a big thing to do. I did eventually tell sort of close friends and family, but I mean, still to this day there's probably people that don't know I did it, but if I do tell people, they think it's amazing, and I was chatting to a neighbour the other day, and she wished she could do it, but she's kind of late 40s now. And a bit like what Leanne said, you know, there was no judgment. Everybody thought, you know, it's amazing, that's really good. I was very proud, which was lovely. I think my stepmom was a bit confused, because I think at first she thought I was going to be a surrogate. So no one knows. Not everyone knows the ins and outs. I mean, I certainly didn't when I first discovered it. But no, I had nothing but support. There was one bad comment or remark about it, which was lovely. I had so much support, and yeah, it was lovely, actually. Really nice to have so much, you know, well wishes.
And so you mentioned about your neighbor saying that she's in her late 40s and wishes that she could donate. So maybe to Jane or to Alison, who can donate? What are the requirements to be an egg donor?
Jane?
There are strict criteria for who is suitable to be an egg donor, and I think that's what for us is really important, to sort of talk any potential donor through that process. So age is relevant, body mass index, sometimes whether you're a smoker, any previous medical history or family history that is of relevance. And all of that will be discussed, obviously, in the initial stages. And that would be prior to really taking anybody forward to then do the necessary medical tests to check for suitability. So that would be looking more at, you know, the individual's ovarian reserve, to see what their hormone profile is like, and really to give us an indication of how well they'll respond to any stimulation. So
just as a thing, in case you're not clear, an ovarian reserve is actually how many eggs you've got.
Sorry, yeah.
Born with 500,000 eggs in each ovary, well, most of us are, and you lose them as you go through your fertility, your life, your fertile life. And so we do a test just to see how many eggs you've got and whether it's actually fair for you to offer this help. So that's what your ovarian reserve is, the number of eggs you've got, basically.
And
sorry, Jane.
Oh, no,
That's all right, no problem. That's fine. Yeah.
Maybe related to this, someone asked, have you ever had a donor find out that they're infertile?
Yes, I have, in all fairness. Not infertile, no, because we don't really get into it at that stage, but we're all different. We all have different hormone levels and a different number of eggs that we have in our ovaries. And it doesn't mean to say you can't have children. It actually might mean you just haven't got enough to donate. Most of the people who come to us are obviously between 18 and 35. In fact, that's what donation is. That's the criteria. So within that age, you are still fertile, but you might not be able to help with egg donation. In all honesty, I don't think I've ever come across somebody who is infertile, because infertility is a slightly complex thing. Does that make sense? Did you agree, Jane?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, just with the different backgrounds that we've come from, and having worked in the field of egg donation for quite some time, you know, you do see people that have got more of a compromised ovarian reserve or number of eggs in the ovary, and I think that's potentially more of an issue. And you know, that is something, obviously, as an aside, because those patients wouldn't be suitable to take through, but obviously need that support themselves if that is identified at the time. Yeah.
We are nearing to the end of this session, so I'm going to prioritize the questions that were asked in advance. For the ones that we don't get through, I'm so sorry, but I'm happy to forward them on and for us to come back individually. So Jane, this one is for you, and perhaps you can also touch on the risks of egg donations and whether there are risks. One specific question was that someone's heard that the ovary can become twisted and therefore it's dangerous during the procedure. Is that true?
Okay, now there are obviously all risks with any medical procedure. The risks associated with being an egg donor are very, very minimal, especially with a normal, healthy individual and someone that responds well to the stimulation medications that we give. Obviously, it's a process that donors need to go through. They need to take a course of medications if they're deemed suitable, and those are usually injections. They are probably for about a 2-week period before we will then do a procedure called an egg collection, which is where, as our donors will confirm, you have a procedure to remove those eggs from the ovary. Now, that is a vaginal procedure, so everything is done using an ultrasound probe, and it's really, really safe. There are, however, small elements of risk. And just going back to the question, I have seen a patient with a torsion of the ovary, which is really where the ovary twists on itself, and that restricts the blood supply. But that is very, very, very unusual. And normally it would be a patient that possibly would over-respond to medication, which is highly unlikely because these regimes that the donors are given are tailor-made to the individual's needs, and usually they're really low doses that patients would be given. So with regards general risks associated with that medical procedure, it's very, very slim. It's a day case procedure. It's normally done using some form of sedation, whether it's a general anaesthetic or just conscious sedation. And the patients are in and out really, really quickly. I mean, an egg collection can take literally minutes. And you don't usually know anything about it because you're fast asleep, you wake up and it's all done, and we can confirm how many, or the clinic that's treating will confirm how many eggs have been collected. And then that's where sort of Altroi can support the patients post-procedure as well.
And also, you mentioned how people react to the medication. During the process, the donors are actually going in for scans to ensure that that everything is going according to plan, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the patients will be assessed at their treating clinic and monitored very, very closely. So, you know, as a donor, you are very much taken care of. The process of taking the injections is going to stimulate the ovaries. You can feel a little bit bloated as you're stimulating. You can feel a little bit uncomfortable maybe, but it shouldn't be anything really more than that. And all donors are really carefully managed by scans, sometimes blood tests as well, taking you up to the point of the procedure. So yeah, I would say very, you know, very safe and well cared for during that time.
Just going back onto that issue about the ovarian torsion, as Jay mentioned, when the ovary twists, we've taken hundreds and hundreds of donors through since I started Altroi in 2010. We haven't had one situation where that's happened, not one, and we've put out hundreds of donors through. So I think that's the risk of that sort of thing happening.
Absolutely, I would agree. It's a very small percentage, and I've, you know, previously worked in clinics where you know, we've taken large numbers of patients through, and the number that you see any issues with is absolutely very, very small. So you know, that's all discussed at the consultation and part of the discussion process beforehand as well.
Wonderful. Perhaps this one for Alison is about support. So when a donor goes through, what support does she have?
I think we pride ourselves in support. That's what I feel is really, really essential. That you as a donor, if you go through, will have access to one of us, an advisor, who will be able to walk the journey with you. That's what we always wanted. So someone who could be at the end of the phone whenever you rang them, someone who is going to organize things if you need help. We're there to help with compensation, so you're never out of pocket. We feel really strongly that support is absolutely key. I'm far too old, but if I was a donor, I would really want someone who knew what they were doing to walk that journey with me, and that's what we do, you know, at Altroi. So the support, I think, is what is fundamentally part of what we do. To look after you going through, and we're just friends really. We're there. We're not there to push you or pull you or to pressurize you, but just to ring you up at night and say, "You okay? Do you know what you're doing? Do you know how that works?" And you can ring up and say, I've just got a little bit of, my tummy itches from the injection, and we say, oh, don't worry, that's quite normal. So it's just someone at the end of the phone that you can ask all sorts of questions of, and we'll have a link with. I mean, I've known Leanne and Liz for years, and yet we still keep in touch. But I hope they, we keep in touch at a distance, obviously, and you don't have to keep in touch, but if you want to, we're there, and that's really part of what we do.
Great. So in a moment, I'm going to ask Liz and Leanne to share one message for people considering donation, and I'm going to ask Alison to then close after that. But I will say I'm really sorry we haven't gotten through all of the questions that we had today. But if you are interested in potentially exploring donation, there are different ways that you can do that. If you have questions that are more on the clinical, on the treatment side, Jane and Alison are there to help you answer. But if you have questions that you would like to ask people like Leanne and Liz, who've been through the process themselves, we actually have a closed Facebook group, which is called Altrui Egg Donors UK, no recipients. So the Altrui team is not in that. Recipients are not in that. It's for donors, by donors, that you can just go in and have a chat. And we're going to start having virtual meetups soon, where we're going to set up a meeting room and people can come in and just chat to people who've been through the process before, should they want to, or just talk about egg donation and what it entails. So there are two avenues for information that you can go to. And of course, as I mentioned, my email is in the post-webinar communications. I'm available to help direct your questions, and I can also send a recording of this webinar if that's at all useful. So I'm now going to pass over to Leanne. If you had one message for someone considering egg donation, what would you say?
Definitely, I would say give Altrui a ring. Don't listen to myths. Don't listen to people's comments. Make the call. Go with what your initial thoughts are. Get that information. Put your mind at rest, because I can assure you it's one of the most rewarding journeys you'll ever do.
And Liz?
Well, again, I would say, even if you're thinking about it, just, do a bit of research and give Altrui a call, or, an online message. You have a really long chat with them and they can answer any questions you have. There's no pressure. It isn't for everybody, but it is one of the best things I have ever done, and I regret not 1 second. It took a few months of my time, and it's just so special, and they are so supportive, and it's just the best thing you can ever do. So even if you're thinking about it, you don't know much about it, do some research and just get in touch with Altrui, because you won't regret it, I promise.
And Alison, maybe some final words. Sound so serious, but
Final words.
Closing remarks.
Those two have said it really. It is incredibly rewarding to do it, as I understand it. I haven't done it myself. But I guess it's a sort of thing from the recipient side, is I don't think anyone can possibly comprehend the difference you can make in somebody's life. It is total game changer for them, and a really something that will stay with you for probably for the rest of your life, that you've done something so amazing. And you should be really proud. Actually, it's a fantastic thing to do, and if you can, we obviously, we'd love your help. But as both of these two have said, it's not for everybody. We completely recognise that. But if you think it could be for you, then just get in touch. Tell your friends. Tell anybody, because we really are. We really do need help for people who, as I explained at the beginning, need help, and without you, they're just left with a bit of a painful experience. So thank you very, very much for listening. It's so kind, and hopefully we'll hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone once again, and thank you to our wonderful speakers as well, Liz and Leanne, who have already done so much. And Alison and Jane, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'd love your feedback as well, and if there's anything else that we can answer, we will be there. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a lovely, lovely evening, and thank you again, a really heartfelt thank you for joining us and hearing a little bit more about egg donation. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, good to speak to you.
Yeah.
Nice to
Bye.
meet you all. Yeah.